morning. Good morning. So I'm Mindy Tate, CEO of Franklin Tomorrow, and thank you for being here for our final Frank Talks of 2024. We are already planning for 2025, have our January and February programs pretty well planned out or identified, even though we aren't going to announce those just yet. So thank you again for being here, and thank you. Please thank Columbia State Community College so much for their support of holding this event. Dr. Daryl Lampley, Dr. Lampley, will you stand up and wave? And Mary Beth and Bethany Lay are here. How many of you, this is your first time to this campus? I believe that tours will be available should someone need one. It is the fastest growing, if not one of the fastest growing community colleges in the state of Tennessee, and we are blessed to have this facility in our community. So we're going to call up our friend Nancy Conway, who had a lot to do with this campus being here and Columbia State here in general, to do our Did You Know? There is a really super good prize today. One of our umbrellas. And if you didn't see it out in the lobby, the underside of it is the Franklin Square. These were one of our gifts during our Mayor's Cup golf tournament, which will be September 15th in 2025. The only mistake we made with this umbrella was we didn't have the mayor standing in the middle of the square going, hey. But that's the only mistake we made. But this will be the prize. Now, should you not win the prize, you can purchase, not purchase, you can make a donation to Franklin Tomorrow up to $100 or more, and you will be gifted one of these umbrellas. And that is a tax-deductible donation. There you go.
Thank you, Mindy. As you can see, Mindy is up to her regular tricks. But that's good. That's good. Well, I'm Nancy Conway, and I am with Williamson Inc., your Chamber of Commerce, and it's my pleasure to be here today and present the quiz question. So when I get to the quiz question, Mindy is going to be looking. Okay, you need to stand up, Emily, and you look also, because the first person that answers the question correctly.
The first raises their hand. No shouting out.
No, Okay? She's in charge. Okay. Now, Frank Talks is a very valuable resource. It provides information for this community that you probably cannot get other places. So let's go to today's quiz question. What year did Frank Talks begin?
Anybody? Oh, you can't win. Come on. Oh, over there.
2016.
Oh, Dan Ryan.
Dan Ryan is correct. You won an umbrella.
I think he might have been board chair that year. I'm not sure. Was that true?
He's giving you $100 also.
Oh, wow, we love that. Thank you so much. I think he was board chair in 2016. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much. I'm going to have my McDonald's cup up there. Certainly your financial support as individual donors is very important to discuss at Franklin Tomorrow, but we have a number of corporate partners, and among them are our sustaining partner, Atmos Energy, and Christina Christensen is here. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Atmos. They do so much in our community. As do our friends and sustaining partner at Williamson Health. So I'm going to let Greg Broy have the microphone. I think he has a little video.
Ooh, of course. On behalf of the 2,300 employees of Williamson Health, good morning. We represent Bone and Joint Institute, our clinics, our award-winning EMS folks, which you may have seen yesterday and the day before, out at Dickens of a Christmas, as well as our flagship hospital, Williamson Medical Center, just down the street. We are delighted to be here. Happy holidays, everybody. Today we're going to look at the study of lung disease, which is our pulmonologist, and we've got some top-notch capabilities that we want to share with you. So let's take a look.
Pulmonology is the study of lung diseases, ranging from things like asthma,
emphysema, or otherwise known as COPD,
interstitial lung diseases,
pneumonia.
and lung cancer.
So the low-dose CT scan is a new benefit for patients that is a screening platform that we use to identify patients with early-stage lung cancer.
So a lung nodule is a spot on the lungs that is not normal lung tissue. It can really run the gamut from something totally benign, which is the most common findings, to the most extreme cases, which are what most people think about, which is lung cancer. So the most common risk factor for lung cancer is smoking, but it's not the only one. And so there are a number of other risk factors, other occupational exposures, asbestos people know about, radon exposure, which is a common chemical released from our Earth's core. Cancerous lung nodules show up sometimes without any symptoms, which are what makes it tricky.
So a lung navigator is someone who guides patients through lung cancer screening, diagnosis, treatment, and care.
Lung navigator is very important in this process because, like I said, this is an anxiety-provoking situation, and so we want to be able to negotiate this process as streamlined, as expeditiously as possible, and so that lung nodule navigator is that point person.
We make sure they have a full understanding of their diagnosis. We answer all questions that they have. We make sure their treatments are done in a timely manner. And we also make sure that they have access to all the resources that they need, such as support groups and financial assistance. I want to make sure that they are supported and guided, and to let them know that I'm going to walk this journey with them right along beside them.
The whole reason we do screening CT scans for patients is that we want to identify lung cancer as early as we can because the treatment options are better.
So now that we're doing all these screening studies, we're finding cancers earlier. We've got the ability to use advanced techniques now that we can get to these nodules in all parts of the lung when they're at very small sizes in order to get a diagnosis early.
Thank you so much, Greg, and thank you, Williamson Health. Oops. Additionally, our presenting partner for Frank Talks that helps us so much every year, our friends at Renaissance Bank. And Tony Sharp, you're here. You don't want to talk football right now, do you, or anything?
Well, I'll talk football.
Yeah.
So I don't have a. Yes, many of you know I'm an Alabama fan. We didn't make it, but we usually have a really great video to play from SEC Shorts, but it was 8 minutes long, and I don't think our donation covers that long, maybe. So we couldn't play that one, but go check it out on Renaissance Nation. So, you know, Mayor, I don't know how this works, but I'm putting my support behind the Vols this year. So go Vols. Yeah, all right. Is that how you say that? Go Vols? All right. Oh, wait. Oh, man. But from our family at Renaissance, we really want to wish you Merry Christmas. And we've got a couple folks here, Andy and Todd. I don't know if that's Andy Hawkins and Todd Norman from our Cool Springs locations there. And then Diane, of course, always in the back there. But we want to wish you a Merry Christmas, and we're so glad to be part of Frank Talks. It's just a fantastic organization. So that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Enjoyed our coffee and our holiday cups from our friends at Lion Leadership, McDonald's franchisee here in Williamson County and Middle Tennessee. We appreciate them. Now, we could not let this go, this opportunity. How many of you have completed the special census? Oh, look, Eric, there's like 30 people in this room, but there's 30 people in this room who we could get maybe who live in Franklin, but it's really important that you do this, and I'm sure Eric and Mayor Moore will speak a little bit about this as well. And I we're not going to do a 2024 review for Franklin tomorrow. We've had a great year. Thank you to those of you who've attended Frank Talks, our quarterly breakfast with the mayors, our very special Vision City Conference we had this year in collaboration with Seaside Institute. We have a 25-member board of directors, which is a big board, I admit, but it is representative of our community, and I would ask our board members who are here today to please stand. Great, thank you so much. And stay up. So, and then our board chair, Teresa Ashworth Harris, is completing her second year as our board chair, second and final year as our board chair. And we so appreciate her commitment, as well as our pseudo board member, Frank, her husband. And we appreciate them so much, and they're really active volunteers. And next month, Peggy Kidd will be our board chair, and you'll be seeing her more and learning more about her as we move into the new year. So at just about perfect time, maybe a minute early, which is really good, we are going to call up our panelists. So we've got City Administrator Eric Stuckey from Ohio. The Ohio State, come on up. Mayor Moore, Mayor Ken Moore.
The mayor's going to have a counseling session with me after this, I'm sure.
We've got Matt Largent
Appreciate
with
what I
Williamson Inc. We've got Brian Wright with Town Planning, and we've got Devin McClendon with NAI Stanton Group. So we got a good panel here, and y'all can raise or lower your chairs. We didn't want to. They're pretty up there. Yeah, we had to allow for camera reset on that, but they were pretty high. But thank you.
For a sec, hold on, I'm good. There we go, sorry.
You need okay.
Yeah, you're towering. I'm trying to.
Y'all signal me if you need your water bottles, okay? I'll just come by there and hand water bottles like we're at a football game or something. I don't know, but thanks so much to these gentlemen for being here. 2024 has been a great year in Franklin, I think. We've had a wonderful year, and 2025, a lot of exciting things on the horizon. And so we're going to start on this end. But now y'all are just really weird light on your faces. I don't know if I can take it. I think you need to go this way. Okay, everybody move up to the line, maybe.
Be closer to the people.
That's the good thing, closer to the people. Sorry, didn't really, yeah, that's much better. It's not distracting, yay. Yeah, and you're not going to be blind by 10:30 or anything like that. So I'm so excited. We're going to start on this end, closest to me, with City Administrator Eric Stuckey, who is in his 15th?
Finished 16 years.
16 years at the helm.
Time flies.
Wow, 16 years. And Mayor Ken Moore to talk about a preview of 2024 and into 2025. And here's the poster.
Thank you all for having us, and I'll let the mayor kick it off.
Well, great. I think everybody would agree 2024 has been a great year, and 2025 we've got a lot to look forward to. So we've got a few slides, and why don't you kick it off there and talk just a little bit, and I'll interrupt you.
Sounds good. Absolutely. Always glad to be interrupted by the mayor. So 24 has been a monumental year in a lot of ways. A lot of things have moved forward, and that's really building momentum for 25 and 26 and 27. I really look at those years, the next 3 years, as kind of prove-it years, because we got major projects that are either already moving forward or will be moving forward in this next year, and you're going to see that as we talk through this. So this is really important, the progress that's been made, but it really is a building block for more that is to come. So want to recognize we have in the audience with us Brandy Blanton, one of our aldermen at large, and another alderman at large, Ann Peterson, also with us. Thank you so much for the work, the leadership, and support they provide to our community and to our city team. So we couldn't do it without the team that comes together to give that direction and make those critically important decisions. So these are just a list of we could go on with a lot of other things, but the things that really stood out, and Mayor and I sort of brainstormed on this a little bit over the last week or so. The first two talk about the vitality, the continued vitality and competitiveness of our community. That continues to be first and foremost in terms of the things that drive Franklin. We saw strong investment. We have the lowest unemployment in the state, in our city. And so we are a place where people are investing and making things happen. And we're proud of that. We're proud of this is a place that people choose to call home, whether it's their business, their family. And that's a great strength. We talk about private investment. We look at permitted investment in the community, and we saw a number over $850 million in the last year. That is the strongest we've seen in the last 5 years. So we have come through an interesting time, be it through COVID and the changes in how work life is going.
Sorry about that. What's the betting line on Tennessee?
This is an important call.
Where were you, Eric? I've forgotten.
I'm totally distracted now, but, and I hope to still be your city administrator on Sunday morning after the Ohio State-Tennessee game, but we'll see. I do work for the mayor and the entire community. So I hope you'll give me a little grace. We may not all be on the same page on Saturday night. But back to what I'm supposed to be talking about. So that investment really matters. That is people stepping up and voting with their dollars and their investments, and people can live and work anywhere. More than any time in our history, people have these choices and options, and we want to be that place people choose. And we are seeing that really validated in those numbers and that activity. Major projects that have moved forward, Mayor has been involved since he was an alderman in some of the water and wastewater planning, the water resources planning that we've done. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I thought that would be a good point for me to jump in here, because whenever I was an alderman, I was asked to be on the Integrated Water Resource Plan Study Group. And so we worked on that for 2 or 3 years, and we scheduled what we wanted to be. Well, using our growth, we decided what we needed to do as far as water and wastewater for the next 25 years. And so right now, what you're seeing is, or saw this year, is that the water reclamation plant came online, and it's just a long, long process to get these things permitted. But I think this reflects a lot on how much planning it takes for a city to continue to grow and plan for the future. And we'll talk a little bit about 2025 and some of the planning that's going on. But also, there are 2 projects up there, that Harlansdale Pedestrian Bridge and the Hayes House restoration, which I think is reflective of the partnership we have with Friends of Franklin Parks and them having raised money from the private sector to help do some of the projects that we have. And who can not talk about the Margaret Martin Bridge?
To put that up.
And this is really, when I say that, I think that West Main Bridge, which you may or may not have noticed, but that was a very dangerous place there for people that were walking down West Main. And Margaret Martin brought that to our attention, since citizens had brought that to her attention, and we were able to build that bridge and increase the safety in that area.
A couple things I would just add that I think are really important about those projects in particular, the Harlansdale related projects. It's this relationship where there are times the city's taken the lead, but there are times the citizens and the private side has taken the lead in making things happen. The pedestrian bridge was largely funded by a combination of city and state dollars, but Friends played an incredibly important part in working out some arrangements with the Chestnut Bend HOA so we could work out the alignment of the bridge and where we had land to do it right. And so that's a great thing where we work together. And the great part about that project is we got an extra $1 million from the state late in the project because we were ready and we were doing a good project, and the clock was ticking on their money. So we were ready to go and could use it. Now Hayes House, that was really driven by their fundraising. They brought private dollars to lovingly restore that home and make it just a central focal point of that great park. So we're really happy to do that, and we are so thrilled to get Margaret's Bridge in place. Yes, 11th and Petway, just along there. You almost don't know it's a bridge, but it's a bridge, and it's got some pedestrian access that it never had before, so people don't have to walk in the street. Long Lane, we made some revisions to that plan. That's a very important connection in the southern part of Franklin to connect our east and west. We only have one right now that really connects it, which is the highway interchange area. So that's been updated and revised. We saved about, $8 or $9 million in some of the changes in that plan that we're putting elsewhere into our capital projects. A couple other things that we have going on that are critically important, and you'll hear some stories about really creative, impactful development that's coming through the pipeline. But setting the vision of our land use plan and Envision Franklin is critically important. And we intentionally do that on a 5-year cycle, and that completed in this last year in terms of that update and reflecting what the community wants to see in land use and the type of land use throughout, not only Franklin proper as we see it today, but as it will grow over time.
The last one there, the road impact fee update, that was a pretty long process for the board to come up with the impact fee that we would charge developers as far as the impact they make in our community whenever they build a project. So it's important that we've always tried to push on the cost of development on the developer, and so that's reflective of what it costs to provide the roads and infrastructure to those projects. And so the board was pretty gracious as far as allowing that to be phased in over like a 5 or 6 year period.
So let's talk about 25. We really want to spend a little bit of time on where we're headed as much as anything. This is our focus as an organization. Our delivery is quality of life to our citizens and to the community. So we want to be all about that, whether that's the folks that pick up your trash and recycling, or that's the newest infrastructure that we're trying to build. All those elements add up to a high level of quality of life. That makes the difference. That's why people choose our community as a place to invest in and live in. We are making key investments in the community. We'll see the next several slides will highlight those big projects moving forward. We want to have a strategic focus. We want to be focused not on what's just happening today, but 5 and 10 and 15 years out. What is going to make where do we need to be that high quality, high performing community? And then finally, we do all this through our people. So we want to build the very best city team that we can. We've worked diligently over the last year about some employee engagement work that talks about the better we serve our team, the better our team serves the community. And we want to be serious about that. And we'll be doing an additional employee engagement survey in 25 to see where we're doing, how we're doing, and how we can continue to attract and retain the best talent to serve our community. All right, let's talk projects. Mayor, what do you want to talk about?
Well, let's do. These are projects that are going to come online this year. Bicentennial Park is going to be finished up in May. It'll include some additional parking, and there may be some other options where we look at additional parking there. But this is going to be a place where you can have 3,000 to 5,000 people, be a great pavilion, and be a great location for a concert, a fundraiser with a nonprofit. Of course, the Harlansdale Barn, which has been a project we're excited about that will come online next year, in 2025. And thank goodness we'll finish with all the inconvenience that's happening on Lewisburg, but an important project to upgrade the water and sewer there and increase the water pressure in the area and increase the capacity. And lastly, I talked about the new wastewater plant upgrades coming online. Well, that gives us about 10 years of capacity based on our growth. So we already are having to start to study and figure out how we're going to fund the next water reclamation facility, which will be in Southeast Franklin, and how we need to adjust those impact fees and also the utility fees that we're charging to be able to pay for that particular plant.
So yeah, the one thing I just add on the Lewisburg project, we know it's majorly inconvenient at times. We're working our way down Lewisburg. But the good news is 2/3 of it's being funded by the federal government, so that's good. And we're going to knock that out. And there's a time at which you have to improve aging infrastructure, and this is the time. We need to do it. We know it will be inconvenient. We've picked up some momentum with a much better crew working that project than what we started, and we'll knock that out by the fall of 25 is the goal. All right, let's talk about a couple more things that have launched or just launching. Just not far from here, the McEwen 4 project, which will go from Cool Springs out to Wilson Pike. That bid was just awarded at the December board meeting, and that is about a $46 million project. 30 million of which is funded by the federal government. We started with 10 million and we've built that up to 30, and we're not done yet. We're going to go back out and see if we can get some more federal dollars to relieve us of the local burden, but that will be a major project. That will be converting essentially that country road that is that stretch of McEwen into a 4-lane median divided roadway, similar to what you see from Cool Springs into town. So that will be a major improvement, but it will take some time. That's a 3.5-year probably build out because of all that is involved in building that project. But we're grateful we've gotten federal money to help us do that. The other project that we'll see more progress in 25 will be acquiring right-of-way and getting the final plans in place for the Columbia Avenue project, which is also a federal and state funded project to improve that roadway, make that a 5-lane roadway with sidewalk all along the west side of Columbia Avenue from Downs all the way down to Mac Hatcher. And that will be working closely with property owners and also looking at how we minimize the impact on those local businesses that call that home. So that'll be a major impact as we get ready to bid that in about 2.5 years. There's 58 properties that we have to work with to get the appropriate right-of-way to move the project forward.
Columbia Avenue is fully funded. Boom. And I appreciate, yeah.
Yeah.
And the board the other night voted to spend $90 million, 45 on McEwen, 45 on Southeast Park, which I haven't mentioned yet, but we will go into that a little more detail. I think one point we need to make is that Columbia Avenue is going to be a very disruptive project. It is the most congested roadway we have in the city. I want
One of the highest accident rates too.
And I think that the city is going to work very, very closely with those business owners on Columbia to make sure that they can stay open. I know that's a focus always of TDOT whenever they have a project, and they actually have special people in their office that do that sometimes. Very disruptive, but very, very needed project, and it'll be 4 lanes, so that's good. What's
right.
the City Hall deal?
Let's hit some slides that'll show us some images. So City Hall's really happening. Yay. So we will no longer temporarily be in the old mall on the square. We will be knocking it down in the spring of next year. We will be moving our operations from there to our temporary or interim space. We'll be located on Columbia Avenue in the part of the First Bank building that's right there on Columbia, just north of police headquarters. We'll be in the southern half of that main building. We'll be entirely in the office that wraps the parking garage right next door. That'll be where our development services will be. And then about a block and a half down is the White House, that is an office building on 9th. That will be the remainder of our operations. So City Hall operations will pretty much be in one of those 3 buildings, starting in probably around no later than March 1st. We will be out of the existing City Hall and start demo and foundation work in the spring. So that's a huge deal, and we are working to be in the new City Hall by the middle of 2027.
And I'm looking for some volunteers to help me move some of those boxes in the office. So,
Community effort, we'd love to see it. So that is a huge move forward. That building is well past its prime. We need a building that fits and serves the community well, and fits and serves our team well. That sends a huge message about who we are and how we serve our community. And I think the community is going to really embrace the elements of that are so faced and oriented towards the needs of the community to bring us together. You also see at that bottom slide, there'll be some commercial space on the Church Street end right by the park that will have restaurant and coffee shop type activity, just bring a little more activity down 3rd Avenue and be a great addition to downtown. All right, Southeast Park, that bid was just awarded. We're thrilled. The first phase, that'll have 5 of the sports fields, and probably the most exciting part is LEG's Dream World. So exciting stuff. You talk about the community stepping up. Half of that playground is funded by private dollars raised by the Friends of Franklin Parks, and it'll be our first all-inclusive playground, and we're thrilled to have it coming. Mayor, anything else you want to say?
Well, I just recognize Alderman Blanton for, and her granddaughter who's since passed that this is named after, and the community support that's come out so big to help make this project really come to life. So thanks for being such a leader on that, Brandy.
Well, and parks are a great place to bring the community together, but they can bring inspiration as well. And I think we'll see that happen here. All right, a couple other things on 25, and we'll finish up. It's not just building things, it's we plan and we plan and we work the plan. That's what we do in Franklin. And we're updating our preservation plan. A core of who we are is our historic character, and so we're updating that plan, and we'll be working that throughout the year. We also are working on a strategic plan update related to how transit works in our community. So that work is going forward. We'll be bringing in some consultant work to help us with that, maximize how that serves our community and helps lessen some burden on our roadways. We are actively working on ways to fund key roadway projects that are TDOT facilities. Most of the major roads in our community are state routes. And so we need TDOT to partner, and we're trying to find creative ways to work with them to deliver on impactful road projects. And I'll leave it at that, but it's really important. And then we continue to work on our 10-year capital investment plan and are updating that funding model, and we'll be making some additional decisions related to that, I think, in the first part of the year. The other thing that happens is we're on the property reappraisal cycle, and the community will go through and the county will go through the assessor's office and update those values, and that impacts where our property tax rate can go. It typically goes down. So we will look at where we set that rate and how that fits with delivering on the projects and the services our community expects. So it's just a window of time where you get to look at that, and we're going to look at that as part of our budget and long-term financial planning. Mayor, anything?
I might just expand just a little bit on the TDOT partnership. You know, you may have seen where the General Assembly passed the Transportation Modernization Act, and part of that act included statewide public partnership opportunities for communities to step forward and bring projects and add some additional funding to those. And so we're looking at that very, very carefully and have submitted Southeast McHatcher and Northwest McHatcher widening to that project list. So unfortunately, because of the disaster in East Tennessee, the release of those decisions have been delayed until spring. But this is an important opportunity for the city on moving some of our projects forward.
That's what we've got.
All right.
Thank you all.
Back up here. Thank you so much. Matt Largent, Williamson Inc., you've got a few slides to talk about, and we'll move on and go forward.
Okay, thanks. And before I do that, I just want to take a second. We have such a strong partnership with Columbia State around workforce development. Modern day economic development is certainly, the facilities, real estate matter. What matters is talent. Can these companies find the talent they need in the community? Can they recruit the talent here? And nobody has done a better job than Columbia State under Darrell Lampley's leadership. So I'm going to just take a second and recognize Darrell for all the great work he's done. He's retiring early next year. Just stand up, Darrell. Thanks, ma'am. Thanks for everything you did for this campus. I appreciate it. Thank you, Darrell. All right, so Williamson Inc., we're Community Meets Opportunity. We are the combined Chamber of Commerce and Office of Economic Development in Williamson County. 12 years ago, we had a merger of all the different chambers in the county into one that provided a single path to engagement for the business and nonprofit community. That's the reason it was created. Again, we're both the Chamber of Commerce and Office of Economic Development. So we'll start talking about the year in review. I think one of the things that's also important for those who spend time in this room during the legislative session for our policy talks, we had a very active year in terms of elections this year. So we actually hosted a debate for District 61, District 65. Kel McDowell did a magnificent job moderating the town of Nolensville debate as well. And then, of course, this is something that just lives on, williamsonchamber.com/vote. We do candidate interviews with everybody running for office. We have information on where to vote, early voting locations, day of locations. It's a great resource, so make sure you pass this on. That's really important, and we'll activate that as we go back into election season as well, probably in 2026. So helping people connect with their local officials is one of the most important things we can do because they need to hear from us, and they need to hear from us often. So in this room, what Friday of the session, Kel? When do we do policy talks?
The last Friday, first Friday, for Jake. It is
24th. Okay.
So see when they said practice.
Got it. Okay, and it takes place in this room. So definitely encourage you all to take advantage of the opportunity to connect with our state elected officials during session. So 2024 year was a big year for small business. Small business drives every economy across America, including Williamson County specifically. So this year we actually formed a small business council to make sure we're doing what we need to do to stay in touch with those small business. We have a small business academy as well. We have a startup academy. Nick Beneker back in the room manages that. It's a free 10-week course. We had over 200 small business members join Williamson Inc. And then Nick also manages our innovation center partnership with the Heritage Foundation on the former campus of Elmore College, currently Franklin Grove. And so that's really taken off in terms of a place to incubate companies. Also provides co-working space as well. We had 90 ribbon cuttings this year. It's remarkable, and I think that's a reflection of the dynamism of that small business community in Williamson County. Last year we set a record at 83. This year we eclipsed. That's one ribbon cutting every 3 business days. So as Eric talked about how important economic vitality is to Franklin, it's important to Williamson County as well. That's the reason we do what we do. So taking a look forward to 2025, this is a really important initiative that we had a booth set out earlier. Our team is happy to talk to you about this, but this is an initiative we're working in partnership with the county government about basically taking what would be transfer tax that's typically sent to the state, but actually going back to Williamson County to help offset some of the costs for road projects, specifically for the county, widening I-65 south, making some improvements at Moore's Lane. So this is a way to really get into the 3 things we focus on as an organization: attainable housing, transportation solutions, supporting our education system. This is definitely one of those keys around transportation solutions. You can scan the QR code. We're collecting signatures to support this in Williamson County and statewide as well. So you'll be hearing a lot more about this as we move forward during the legislative session. Next, you'll hear us talk about this a lot in the future, In-N-Out. So In-N-Out actually will have this time next year, you can get your In-N-Out burger animal style right here in Franklin, Tennessee. That is definitely worth a clap. So we're excited about that. So the restaurant opens around November of next year. This was actually a photo from the groundbreaking for their regional Eastern Territory office, is what they're calling it. And this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be a remarkable building, fantastic, great work with the city of Franklin, I know, to make Lindsay Snyder's dream a reality. A lot of work into that. I know, so really excited. That'll be across from Chick-fil-A there in Berry Farm. So really excited about what that's going to mean moving forward. And
We're supposed to say that word.
Oh, that's right. Well, no, they don't serve chicken, so it's fine. So I need to take a second too. I wish I'd put a slide for what just happened a few weeks ago. Just a few weeks ago, there was the grand opening for Educational Media Foundation. For those not familiar with that, it's K-Love. If you know the radio station K-Love, they actually moved their headquarters here from California. And I got to say, too, it was about, help me, 3 or 4 years in December when we had their executives in town. We brought in the closers, deal closers for the deal, these two, that really sealed the deal that caused them to pick Franklin and Williamson County. So thank you for that. Really appreciate it. That's a great example of how the public-private partnerships work with you. And so we really appreciate it. So should have put this in. All right, so as I sort of close up with this, I just want to mention a couple things from our annual survey we sent out a couple weeks ago. These are preliminary numbers. We don't have everybody we expect to actually take this survey, but I do want to share a few things that again sort of align with what we talk about from an economic development standpoint. So we asked the very simple question to the people taking the survey: what's your staffing outlook changes for 2025? And so I think this is fantastic when you do not see companies expecting to cut back. Either they're going to remain the same or they're going to increase their staff. That is a great sign for everything else that happens in this community, that companies still continue to hire and create opportunities for our kids, our grandkids, our residents right here in Williamson County. So we asked the question too, now that Nashville passed what they passed for Davidson County in this last election for their dedicated funding, would you support additional dedicated funding for public transportation in Williamson County? Eric mentioned the work they're going to do around transit. You can see 52% said yes, 22% said no, 26% said not sure. So that's something that will definitely continue to be a conversation piece in the next 5 to 10 years, not just in Williamson County, but across the region. And then I think this is really important because there's a big part of this legislative session that's going to focus on school choice, universal school choice, school vouchers, however you call it. So we asked the question, how do you think the implementation of the proposed legislation impact the quality and accessibility of education in Williamson County's public schools? And we asked that question because we know schools drive this economy. Our economy is built from decisions people made decades ago, and so keeping our public school system is strong because it makes an economic development difference. And you can see 19% said positive, 43% said negative, 13% said no, and then 25% unsure, unfamiliar with legislation. That'll change as it moves forward. This is definitely something we're going to make sure that we keep our membership apprised of as we go through the legislative session. Very important to what could happen here and across the state. And then I think this is really important too. What is the future of people in their offices, and how does that impact, and we'll have a conversation about this I'm sure here in a second, but how does that impact what happens from a real estate market in terms of corporate locations across the country? We still don't know. I am surprised we haven't figured it out yet, but we haven't. And so we'll see what happens in 2025 in terms of what that might mean for deal flow in Williamson County specifically. So at the end of the day, we're still really fortunate. We make up 3.7% of the population, but we make up 18% of all business establishments, 14% of annual payroll for all those business establishments, and 22% of all of Tennessee's management jobs, 1 in 5, is based right here in Williamson County. Those kind of numbers make me feel good about the future of this economy. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Matt. And we're going to run a little over. Just everybody take a deep breath. We're going to run a little over because the next two presentations are very important. They're about projects that we've seen coming online in late 23 into 2024, and they are approved and moving forward in 2025. And they're unique and different in what they're doing. And so I'm going to start with Brian Wright with Town Planning and Armistead. So thank you, Brian.
All right, so I'm going to stand up if it's okay. I can't present while my feet are dangling. And I also have a lot of slides, and I tend to go slower if I'm sitting down. So I'm Brian. Thanks for having me today. I'm going to run through these slides real quick. When Mindy reached out, she said, can you do the Armistead presentation? So some of you may have seen a lot of this, so I apologize. Hopefully it's so exciting you won't fall asleep. But where we started with is, looking at these population projections for the county moving forward. So you see 2010, 184,000, 2040, 536,000 people. So where are they all going to go? We have, a lot of land that's already built out, but we have our beautiful rural edges as well. And so what do you do about that? So as the county was just trying to decide when they came to this fork in the road, do they want to, continue to preserve rural character and all of the things that people love about it and push growth into the municipalities, or kind of continue on with a more suburban sprawl kind of model where you're sort of eating up the farmland lot by lot. And so they decided to, kind of focus the growth in the municipality. So then you're trying to figure out, okay, well, in those rural areas that I just mentioned, what is the rural character of Williamson County? And it's certainly not, sort of 1 acre lots. It's certainly not, downtown Franklin. And so what is it? And so we've been working to try to figure out what that looks like. So the project that I'm going to talk about today is called Armistead. It is right next to Gentry's Farm, between Gentry's and Mac Hatcher, and then 96 here with West Haven below us. So that's today. And you see in 1997, there was nothing there, no West Haven, none of these other things. So it's kind of a big change has happened. And then there's a new development going into the upper corner there that's called Hamilton Place. So if you haven't been to the farm or seen it, it's a Century Farm designation, and beautiful historic buildings there, cows roaming around and, creek meandering through. It's just so scenic that you can't even believe it. So the Short family, they've owned the property for 135 years and been farming it continuously. And so what they wanted to do was something different. They didn't want to just sell it off once it didn't become feasible to be able to farm it anymore. And so they said, we want to reach out and find a development partner that's going to help us, allow us to stay involved and partner with them, not just stay involved in name. And so they actually brought on me and my business partner, Craig Hoover. We're character development. I also have a planning firm called Town Planning and Urban Design Collaborative, but we have character development, and so we specialize in doing these types of unique projects. Envision Franklin really set the tone for what we ended up ultimately doing. It's a great document if you haven't read it. It's the comprehensive plan for the city, and it talked about the rural areas and rural preservation and whatnot. And so specifically for us, we had two different future land use designations. We had conservation subdivision in the green, and then mixed use, neighborhood mixed use in the purple. And there was a specific special consideration that talked about it being a suitable place for an agrihood. So what is an agrihood? It's just short for agricultural neighborhood. It's a neighborhood that's really planned around agriculture. And so a lot of times you'll hear this term these days where it's like somebody put like a community garden box next to their sales office and they're calling themselves an agrihood. We think that it's supposed to be a bit more than that. And so it's you'll see that we believe that, in a real agrihood, the agriculture is as important as the architecture, and that John Deere shapes the community as much as Caterpillar, right? So this is my new little catchphrase here. So, okay, good, y'all. I'm just trying it on for size. So, one of our big inspirations is a project outside of Atlanta called Serenbe. If you haven't seen Serenbe, they've done a great job working with the land, incorporating the agriculture. However, it's a 1,000-acre project, and they have about 10 or 20 acres of agriculture. So people think of it as a sort of ag-forward project, and it's actually a really small percentage of what they're doing. But we still love it nonetheless. For us, the way that we do all of our design projects is to start with the community first and bring in the public. So we had this design workshop, this design charrette. It was 5-day long in 2023, quite well attended, which was great. And we had some people there. So you'll see the guy in the top left in the black sweater. And then you'll notice there the edge, a person named Dennis, who's actually in the crowd today. They were participants in the process. And here they are at the Planning Commission hearing in July of 2024. And you notice they have on the same shirt. Those green shirts actually say Armistead on them. And so they were there in favor of the project. Chris actually got up and spoke, and we had multiple people who spoke in favor of the project. And I think maybe 2 people came who just saw like, oh, there's a development happening, but they, based on their comments, weren't quite aware of what was going on, because they said, you need to preserve the agriculture and the pit, you'll see in a second. they were happy with what we did. So it's a vision and a core value kind of based project. It's a principle based project, so it's not just bottom line. So we want to be globally recognized as a model for how to do sustainable rural growth and development. People come to Franklin to see how we've done this, and we created all these core values through that process with the community and with the family, and it's been exciting. So here are a few of the elements we're going to incorporate into it. So tree preservation, even though most of the property is in pasture, we actually do have some large areas of existing mature trees. So the city required us to have 54% preservation of canopy. We actually have 83%, and the only places that we are impacting the trees is where we have roads that are cutting through the existing tree rows. So we've worked all around it in the design. That was one of our sort of starting points. We also want to have, trails, gardens, and public art, but things that are rural, that feel like they're intended to be, in this rural bucolic setting. Neighborhood center, entertaining and venues that are, again, in keeping with the character that's set about. Educational opportunities, so we want people to be able to come and learn on the farm. And so if you've ever been to Home Depot, you see the grease board by the door when you walk in. It says like tiling session on Saturday. Here we're going to have like beekeeping on Saturday written on a chalkboard or something, so it's like that. You can come and participate in cooking classes and all sorts of things. Part of the beauty of this area are the dark skies, right? Seeing the stars, and it's a little bit hard, because you look that direction and you start to that direction, or depending on where you are, you start to see Cool Springs glowing a bit. But we want to do our part and at least save the stars where we are. So having all of our light fixtures that shoot the light down. Living the farm life, again, so not just agriculture or agrihood in name, but so that the farm experience is a part of your daily life. So I always talk about, I live in West Haven across the street, and like, if I want my kids to dig a hole to learn how to do hard work, I don't really, it's like dig a hole in the courtyard, So we want to have like chores, community chores, and hey, sorry kids, it's part of living in the neighborhood. You got to go do some chores and learn how to, do some hard work. So, but also the fun of it and learning where your food comes from and all of those things as well. Our neighborhood center, we want to have everyday uses in it, and so people can walk to the things they need. We have a great center across the street in West Haven, and so we want to be supportive of that and symbiotic and have our own sort of down-home version of those elements as well. And then a variety of housing types, right? We hear about the housing shortage in Franklin and the affordability issue. And so what we're doing to tackle that is working on incorporating housing at all scales. So everything from the little, tiny houses to the bottom right here is a multiplex, a small house, well, they call it big house here, apartment house, large single family, cottage courts, duplexes, townhouses, and everything in between. We're even going to have farmhand housing in one of our new barns that we're going to be building, so the ultimate workforce. And then the idea of this farm compound has been talked about for a long time in the city's documents, and so this is actually a multi-family concept. This is like 18 units here, but it looks like an old historic farm setup. We want to have a distinctive architectural style, so we're not just doing West Haven 2.0. We want it to really fit in and be part of what we're thinking about with the aesthetic here. So looking at our townhouses, an inn in the top right, some live-work buildings, some mixed-use buildings in our town center, and all of it is going to be uniquely Armistead, and we're working hard to do that. So the plan is set up. We have about 837 dwelling units on about 200 acres, 192 acres, and about 100,000 square feet of commercial of all sorts. And does this have a laser pointer? No. So we have our mixed use. Oh, there we go. I'll have to get closer. We have our mixed use village center here. We have a series of hamlets to the north, and you see the different colors. So the orange color are townhouses, the turquoise color are tiny houses, the light purple are the apartment houses. These are multifamily, these are mixed use. This is the inn and cottages over here. But what you'll notice is all of the green in and amongst, that's agriculture or nature. So our beautiful creek that runs through the project here, they farmed right up to the edge of it, as farmers do. Well, it's not very habitat friendly, and so we actually have this buffer that's required, and we're taking it back to the native habitat there and reforesting that as well. So here you see, this is our sort of green diagram, our conservation and sustainability, and all the different types of it. You know, some are proper parks and plazas and cottage courts. Others are, you know, the farm fields and open spaces, but it's all interconnected with this massive network of trails for people to walk, and sidewalks and gravel paths and all of the things that will make this place wonderful and accessible for people to go around. Oh, the other thing I forgot to say is historic Charlotte Pike there, Old Charlotte, is if we were to meet city standards, we would have had to widen it and get rid of the old hedgerow, if you've ever seen the hedgerow there. And we said, that's not going to work for us. That's an incredibly beautiful and historic road. And so what we've done is we're actually clipping it off and turning it into a multi-use trail. And so we're bringing our road in. You come in off of Matt Catcher, you come in and go here parallel to it. So now this is for walking and biking and for farm activities and whatnot. This is our green infrastructure. So one of the things that people will come see about Armistead from around the country is we'll be a national model for how to do sustainable stormwater. And so we've been working really hard with the city and the engineering department. We're going to be the guinea pig for a lot of things that the city's wanting to try out and test out, things that, you know, have never been done before, but not been done here yet. And so we're willing to participate in that. And the city's been a great partner in figuring that out together. The historic farm, all the buildings that you can see from 96, we're saving them, preserving them. We are looking to, sort of upcycle and renovate and rehab and do different things in them. And so the idea is to create what we call the farm park. So the farm buildings will be there, and it's like maybe a barn will have events in it, or a pavilion will have this and that. We'll have playgrounds there and sitting spaces and a demonstration garden. But while you might be sitting there with your kids playing in the playground, somebody's pushing a cart of produce that they just picked to go wash it over here in the shed. And it's all happening, and that's part of it. It's, sort of Harlansville is beautiful, but there's not much farming going on there anymore, right? And so we want to have the farm park, where farm is at the beginning and park is second. So we're going to be a local food hub as well. So farmers and producers from around the region can bring their produce and use our facilities to process and do what they want to do. And so people come here to experience that. And our whole idea is from seed to serve. You heard farm to table, so seed to serve. And so we'll be growing, we'll be doing all of these things and putting it into what we're doing. So here's some views of it. These are our road cross sections that we created for the engineering department, because we knew that we wanted to do all these weird things that hadn't been done, and just doing a sort of an AutoCAD drawing would not be sufficient to explain what was happening here. And so one of the things you'll notice is we're actually bringing the hedgerow concept throughout the project. So we're not just saving the old hedgerows, but expanding it. And so this would be an example of where you'd move from one hamlet to another. This will be sort of a typical neighborhood street. And you see here our sustainable stormwater. These are bioswales. This is pervious pavement for the parking spaces. All native landscaping. So we're not going to have lawns except for in the parks and things. So some people are like, oh, that's not for me. Other people, I think, will really get into that and be excited about it. This is part of our town center where we actually interface with the agriculture. So you sit there in the cafe and the cows are watching you eat hamburgers. This is eat more chicken, right? So
go to In-N-Out. No,
this is that's right. This is our shared street, or it's referred to we're planning geeks as a Woonroof. It's a Dutch term. And so this is, you can see cars can still go down this, but it's pedestrian priority. And so they kind of weave in and out of planters and trees and people walking and all of that stuff. And you go, oh my gosh, that seems super unsafe. It's really not, and we'll have the evidence and work on that. But it feel very European in nature. This picture I took 18 years ago, no, almost 20 years ago, when I first moved to town. So this is that hedgerow that I was talking about. This was before Matt Catcher came in. This is a little shorter now than it was. But I have shown this image all around the country in our work in rural areas. And I said, this is a quintessential American rural road. Nearly feels European, actually. And so this is the view coming in. And so you see where we capped it off and saved the hedgerow and started to turn it into the multi-use trail. These houses are actually facing onto the farmland here. They don't even have a street in front of them, just a path, right? You have a rear alley. So imagine sitting on your porch here and looking across at the cows, right? This is a view sort of the northern hamlets, and there's those houses over on the far left that are facing the pasture area, clubhouse and cottages, and this is a multifamily little apartment house there, mixed in with townhouses and all sorts of things as well. This is a view down our Wunderhof, and this is the moment where they're bringing the sheep across to swap them to the new area. It's sort of like the, I can never think, the hotel with the ducks.
It's a Peabody.
Peabody, right? So it's like a moment, everybody's like stops having their, espresso and they watch the sheep come across and somebody's sweeping up behind them, I'm sure. And there's the guy with the produce cart pushing it in that the kids are gonna watch when they're in the playground as well. And this is a view from above. You see 96 on the left. The intersection there is the Front Street intersection of the West Haven and all the old farm buildings. And here you can see what we've done. So we're actually going to get a light at the Front Street intersection to make that safe and where you can come back and forth across. Pedestrians will be able to come across, cyclists and cars, obviously. Here's our Wunderhof and our mixed-use town center. And then you see we quickly go agriculture to agriculture. It's all woven throughout as we go. Since this is talking about the future, thought I'd talk about the timeline a little bit. So we started our process in 2023, as I said, with that design charrette. We actually got our BOMA approval just a few months ago, a month or two ago. And so it was unanimous, which was amazing. I love that. And then we are moving into a point now where we're working on civil engineering, architectural pattern books being created, start taking initial lot reservations. The farm, historic farm park design and planning and construction will begin. The planning of the big farm, the overall farm, will start to move forward. And then the village center construction as well. So we want to get the mixed-use village center in very quickly, but the farm probably first as we go. So that was 51 slides and hopefully not more than 10 minutes, but thank you for that.
Thank you so much. And now we'll go to downtown Franklin with Devin McClendon and the redevelopment of a very historic property in downtown Franklin.
Right, that's right. Well, so I'm going to share with you where we are today and a little bit about what most folks refer to as the Handy Hardware Project. And that's an important word to use. We embrace it because for us, it represents preservation of culture and community, right? We're very good in Franklin about preserving buildings and structures. We felt we have an important structure, but we have a bigger story to tell. And that's not just the Handy Hardware, where most of us have some recollection of going, visiting, seeing a friend, buying some nails, maybe some pesticide, maybe looking through some Civil War bullets, things like that. But it's the community, and that's the valuable part. So we started with that in mind. I joke with folks that this is a 4-year overnight success story. We started on this project by acquiring the original Handy Hardware building, really with the intent of turning it into an office with some retail. It had a second floor that was not being utilized, and then adding something very similar to what was down on 1st and 2nd Avenue, some brownstones along the rear of it. And as the story went, we began digging in, we began designing. At some point, someone said, oh, you really do need to go meet with staff. And so we sat down with staff, and they were very gracious. They said, oh, thank you. We've been worried about what was going to happen to the building. You can't put brownstones behind it. They're like, oh, no, that's terrible. But here's some things you can do. And oh, by the way, we really support the idea of preserving this building and any others that you're able to do. So that started that conversation. That was late 2020. So over the course of the years that came, we decided, well, in order to do this and to preserve this, we needed a little more wiggle room. We needed elbow room. One of the problems with Handy Hardware in itself is that it didn't meet current parking regulations. If we left it as a building, we could do nothing with it, including removing the pole barn that was added along the back of it. Even at that, it didn't meet modern day parking regulations. So we kind of had this conflict. with the idea that no matter what we would do, we would try to preserve the building and, more importantly, tell the story of what was there, not only as Handy Hardware, but also with the builder of the building, as well as what was on that property before then, which is a very compelling story. So what will our project be? First and foremost, we've named it the Margin District. And if you're familiar, you know that Margin Street comes right up beside Handy Hardware. That's a stretch over from Lewisburg Pike. And we said, look, this is on the margin of downtown. It was this very fitting kind of way to name it. It is not downtown Franklin per se. It is not the blocked off area, but it is a part of downtown. And what we wanted to do was continue to pull downtown Franklin down Columbia Avenue, as most folks have advocated for a very long time. If anything, we wanted to begin the walk from 5 Points down to the Carter House. It's a beautiful area, but it hasn't always had the tenants that have made it beautiful. It's beautiful because of stories and memories. So what you see there is a footprint, roughly, of where we'll build this Margin District. So what is the Margin District? The Margin District is a traditional mixed-use development. But if you think Cool Springs in downtown Franklin, you're gonna be surprised. Because really what the Margin District is a continuation of what you see and feel in downtown Franklin. Part of the reason we've taken 4 years to really put everything together was because we said this has to feel like a continuation. It can't be like landing a spaceship in downtown Franklin of new architecture and new materials. It has to fit and blend. We have a team that we put together, and the only thing I'll say about this is I'm a Williamson County native. I've lived in Williamson County my entire life. So everything about it I've chosen over and over in my career, for my family, and it's a great pride point for me. What you'll see amongst our team is a Franklin resident as architect, the same architect working with the city on City Hall. You'll see a civil engineer who lives in Franklin. You'll see all of our vendors have a tie of some type, particularly through the employees that are working on our project, to Williamson County. Our general contractor, based in Brentwood, longtime Middle Tennessee company with great roots. Our residential builder built their career in Williamson County, all the way out from Arrington to Brentwood. We wanted to develop a team that would touch this, that felt a responsibility to the community. You don't get to do a lot of work in downtown Franklin very often, right? So whatever we did, it had to be reflective of the community. The cornerstone of the project is that Handy Hardware building. We will be preserving it. It's a difficult building to preserve. It's not in great structural shape on the rear of it, mostly because there's been additions that have been pulling and tugging on the building, one for about 30 years, one for a little longer than that. And so as we preserve it, we'll actually be removing the bricks off the rear of the building, preserving them off-site, and then bringing them back once we've come back in to strengthen the building and rebuilding it with those very bricks. It will keep its exact same look and feel along the front. The facade all along Columbia Avenue will be the same. We're gonna actually return it to its original entrance, which was about mid-building as opposed to the side, where most of us have gotten used to going into the hardware store, so that it'll be street-facing. And it will be 2 stories, but our improvement to it will actually be a green roof. So we're taking a historic building, we're preserving it, and we're improving it, and giving it an element that's reflective of the future. It's very important that we combine those things as we look to kind of where, well, as the city likes to put it, where progress and preservation meet. We took that charge very seriously. So a lot of the inspiration that's taken so long to really come to is in those materials. This building is all either custom cut limestone or brick. There'll be no expansive uses of metals or siding. It will be all traditional materials that you see in downtown Franklin. We'll have shop space that will run not only along Columbia Avenue, but also inward facing to the project. So all in, the project is about 160,000 feet of residences, which are for purchase only, office space on a second floor, and retail space on the first floor. Our intent, and the reason we're using the term district, the margin district, is because it is inner and walkable inside of it. So the distance between Columbia Avenue and Cummins Street, which runs behind our parcel, is fairly narrow. It's less than 150 feet. But we created a project that will actually look and feel like multiple buildings, because it will be. The Handy Hardware building has a little notch right there that you'll see. That remains its two-story structure as it is today. The buildings surrounding it run 3 stories, with the residence building within the roof line for what kind of feels like a half story, but within where the roof line would otherwise be. Those are all in the form of a condo. They're for purchase. We've actually started selling the first 8, and I believe 7 are under contract as of last Friday. We'll put them out 4 at a time and expect to have them all under contract by summer. The second floor, which is the office, is all meant to be small to medium businesses. We are not looking for a headquarters. We don't feel that that's kind of befitting of the character of downtown Franklin. We will have 40% of our office users in less than 3,000 feet. So to give you an idea, that's 15 employees. So the goal is to have lower impact, higher users, administrative, executive, things like that. Our residents along that third floor are all very high end. They are a high attention to detail. The builder that will come in and actually do the building on our residences is finishing up 3 houses out at Troubadour right now. That's the level that they'll build at. All those finished packages have been determined. And the residential experience will be that could be perfect for a full-time resident that really wants the feel and walkability of downtown Franklin, or the owner that prefers to be able to use it as a second home. It's a lock and leave. They'll have a concierge service, they'll have private gated parking within our parking garage, and it'll really be a very pleasant and almost separate experience from the rest of the development. This is a little bit of the look, and then I'll wrap it up. So as you can see, what we really wanted to do is to create a project that felt like the rest of downtown Franklin, that complemented it. This is if you're standing on Columbia Avenue, and this is actually a direct version of our architectural design. We're at about what's called 70% construction drawings right now. So that is the look and feel, even though it's in a pretty watercolor version. But that's standing on Columbia Avenue, just to the north of it, looking south. That's the Handy Hardware building. And that gives you a little bit of idea of the massing around it. We did not want to do anything larger than the rest of downtown Franklin. In fact, one of staff's biggest concerns that we agreed with was we really don't want it to feel taller than the police department. That's kind of the roof line that we like, anything lower than that. So as we came in and began meeting, we said, look, if we keep it below not only in total height, but also sea level, below the police station, is that okay? And they said, well, that's, it's really for Planning Commission and BOMA to do, but we think that's probably the right thing for you to do. And so that's what we've done. It will be shorter than its neighbor buildings. The internal circulation that I shared a little bit about, that's a good example. This is sitting almost directly in what would be where Margin Street is now. And then finally, this is along Cummins. So if you're familiar with downtown Franklin and you know this area, you know Cummins Street is really treated more like an alley right now. Our goal is to make Cummins the buffer for everybody that lives to the east. That's everyone on Evans Street, that's everybody on Lewisburg Pike. We want Cummins to be a tree-lined, walkable downtown Franklin street, just like everything else, and to be that buffer from the commercial to really the full-time residential. So we've designed it. We're making an enormous amount of improvements, both voluntarily and as part of city code, to Cummins Street so that it will feel like a neighborhood street. It won't feel like an alley anymore. And that's really it. So we will begin demolition of the buildings that aren't really worthy or we're not able to preserve here in the next few weeks. We'll actually begin construction in the first quarter of next year. Rain has a lot to do with it. We have to park this thing. So there's a lot of parking spaces required that we're going to add to the downtown Franklin core, slightly more than 450. So to give you an idea, that's roughly the 4th Avenue garage. I believe that's about right, below ground. So we do have to dig a hole. Digging a hole takes several months. So we'll be digging for probably 6 months, and then you'll begin to see kind of what we call vertical rise above the grade probably late next year. It's a 2 to 2.5 year construction project. We hope to grand open right at the same time that the city is opening City Hall, somewhere between Main Street and 4th of July 2027. So that's where we are.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, it really is.
Thank you so much, Devin and Mayor Moore, Eric, Matt, Brian. We really appreciate this update on 2024 and 2025. We're going to be watching, I guess, you know. There's a lot to keep our eyes on and a lot of exciting things happening. Armistead is exciting to us. We took a group to Serenbe several years ago as part of a Vision City visit, and that was exciting. We've all seen Handy Hardware in its, many of us in its heyday, and so it's exciting to see the redevelopment there. And just keep watching the city because there's a lot going on. So thank you so much. Our next event in January, but also mark your calendars, end of January, January 28th, is our first quarterly Breakfast with the Mayors of 2025, and all of the mayors of Williamson County cities have committed to join us that morning. So that'll be a great event on January 28th at Rolling Hills Community Church. Thanks so much. Happy holidays. Go out and make it a great day. Buy an umbrella.